Welcome to Season 6 of the Up.To podcast. 9 years ago, Up.To was formed as a live event series showcasing leaders who are as humble as they are successful. The humility piece is extremely important as we identify leaders who can inspire others. We try to focus our interviews on the non-business aspects of their lives, and in doing so, we have found there is a real thirst to explore their hearts and minds in atypical ways. Our host, as always, is the founder and creator of Up.To, Adam Kaufman. And on this episode, we are joined by Jimmy Lynn. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're a business owner, an executive, or a rising member of a management team, I don't have to tell you about the importance of having team members and partners you can trust. A firm that I've worked with for years and have trusted myself to refer my colleagues to is VividFront, an award-winning digital marketing, branding, and website development firm based in Cleveland, Ohio, but with clients all over America. VividFront's focus is on scaling brands digitally. They create holistic, return on investment centric strategies and solutions for middle market companies who want to grow. They do paid advertising, influencer and social media marketing, e-commerce strategies, lead generation websites. I could go on. Their expertise is expansive, and their tactful leadership team, all of whom I know, has the entrepreneurial experience to turn ideas into revenue-producing business plans. Yes, I am reading a script, but I will tell you that I sought VividFront out for this podcast because I already believed in them, seeing what they did in the marketplace. So if you're seeking a partner to take your business to the next level, or if you're looking for an opportunity to work for a top agency with an amazing culture, truly an amazing culture, check out their website at vividfront.com or send me a note and I'll introduce you to my friends who run the company there. VividFront, great organization. Our guest today is a veteran of over 30 years in the sports and entertainment industries, widely regarded as one of the pioneers of digital sports and a leading relationship broker in the field. As co-founder of Kiswe Mobile, he's at the forefront of interactive mobile video and branded streaming events. His impressive career includes serving as a vice president at AOL Sports, where he played a major role in developing AOL into a leading global sports destination during an era when the world was jumping onto the internet for the first time. Man, I can just remember how everyone was jumping onto the internet. I love AOL. AOL was everywhere. He's also the founder of his own consulting practice, advising major sports organizations and media outlets regarding all aspects of the intersection between sports and technology. Beyond his business achievements, today's guest is known for his commitment to philanthropy and community service, earning numerous awards, including Time Warner's prestigious Andrew High School Community Service Award. Most notably, our guest today is passionate about the power of mentoring, where he is able to combine his gifted mind and his huge heart in an effort to shape the future of countless young people. For the past several years, our guest has been sharing his expertise as an adjunct faculty member at Georgetown University's Business School, annually among the prestigious school's most popular instructors. Someone I've known now for 25 years. We are pleased to have him in the studio today. Jimmy Lynn, welcome to the Up.To podcast.
Thank you, Adam. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so it's great to be here.
What have you been up to?
So basically, my life is focused on three main things. So Kiswe Mobile is my day job, interactive live streaming company. We're in year 11. We were actually too early in the game in creating this, and now we're a really good market fit, so I can get into that. So that's my full-time gig. And then I teach as adjunct faculty at Georgetown, but I actually teach a full-time schedule. I teach 5 to 6 classes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, a couple classes in the undergrad business school, the graduate business school, and then I helped found the master's program in sports management back. It
probably started as one class, and you got so popular they wanted more.
Well, I'm about to start year 20, so back in 2005, 2006, it was the only sports class taught at Georgetown. And then Well, actually, I got a couple more. And then you mentioned, but the mentoring is the key part of what I do. Most of my free time is dedicated. I mentor a couple dozen kids at Georgetown. Mostly all are minority and first-gen college kids. And then I have a couple of inner-city D.C. kids I've been mentoring for a long time. Then additionally, one of my best friends, Chris Talberides, and I have a production film company. So we've produced 9 documentary films. And then I guess the last thing, I'm a minority investor with the Washington Spirit and the NWSL. And that's been a great 3-year run.
Love that. Love that you're in the soccer business.
I mean, the growth of women's soccer. And I've been, supported the WNBA for 25 years. I'm actually going to Swin Cash's She's Got Time Summit in New Orleans next week.
Wow.
And I'm one of only a few male speakers. It's all powerful women. And I just love seeing the growth.
There's so much to unpack here. You mentioned also the documentaries, which I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
But why don't we go back a little bit? Like, what type of family were you born into?
So, great question. So, American father from Oklahoma.
Okay.
And a Japanese mother from Tokyo.
Okay.
So, my father was stationed in the Army on the West Coast. Was going for his PhD at Stanford in Far Eastern Studies. Learned to speak Japanese. Got stationed in Tokyo. I guess the Japanese was good enough to woo a Japanese woman who didn't speak English, and they got married in '58.
I didn't know this about you.
Yeah, so I was born here, but I moved to Japan when I was 6 weeks old. So I lived in Japan 13 of my first 16 years. I went to American schools on U.S. Army bases, but I grew up with my Japanese relatives, who I'm still close to.
So you were born into this family in America, but then you probably lived a pretty international life. Was part of your family heritage Japanese food or other traditions like we have on the Lebanese side?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, a lot of, just like with Lebanese, Japanese, I'm always on time, right? I'm punctual.
Lebanon's opposite. It's something called Lebanese late.
That's like Brazilian time.
Yeah, but I like that you were on time today.
Yeah, of course. So I've been able to weave those two, and I think part of why I've been very involved in diversity and inclusion and traveling and doing business globally is I grew up that way.
That makes sense. Now, why sports? Did you always have a fondness for sports? All of your work involves sports in some way.
Yeah, another great question. When I was a kid, baseball was my first thing, T-ball to baseball. I grew up playing Little League Baseball against the Japanese teams. In the 70s, you don't remember because you weren't born yet, but in the 70s, like now, the Japanese and Taiwan were winning every World Series. So, it was really competitive, but played baseball. Then over time, I played basketball and football at our high school in Japan. So I've always been into sports, and I remember my friends' fathers used to say, "You're going to be a sportscaster. You're going to be a statistician of sports." And I was able to follow my passion and live my dream.
Yeah, because a lot of maybe even most kids play sports, but few take that fondness into career paths.
Right.
So did you decide early on? I know you said a friend of your dad's identified you as a sportscaster, but was this intentional?
No, again, great question. So I went to American University.
I like all three of my questions. You said great questions so far. Okay.
I'm not going to say we're the next one.
Right.
I went to American University undergrad and grad, communications degree undergrad, and MBA in marketing.
So at that point in college, were you thinking sports?
No, that's where I'm going. So I did 6 internships, radio and TV, WAML, Q107, Home Team Sports, but I love sports, but I had not. That's part of the reasons I mentor so much, because there weren't really sports management programs in the 80s and mentors around. So I actually graduated with my MBA, $50,000 in debt, wanted to work in sports, and I was told by a couple friends how you got to start at the bottom. So I actually interned for the legendary Charlie Brotman, got paid nothing, worked 40 hours a week, and then 3 nights a week I went to WML radio. So I was a screen caller for Ken Beatrice, the famous
I remember
sports
Ken
talk
Beatrice,
show,
yeah.
and then the Tom Snyder, I was a board operator.
Wow.
And I made money. I was DJing. I was one of the top wedding DJs in D.C. I've done over 400 weddings.
Well, I was planning on bringing up on a lighter note some of your DJ background, but let's get to that in a minute. So when you were doing this interning, maybe broadcast journalism, did you ever have someone who really helped you, like pull you up from not just, you said you had to start at the bottom, or most people would, because what I'm getting at is you're now a mentor to others.
Yeah.
So there must be some reason.
Well, I'll say one, Charlie Brotman at the very beginning.
And who is that for our...
Oh, I'm sorry. So Charlie Brotman is one of the great sports PR professionals in history. He's well known for Sugar Ray Leonard's PR guy, Riddick Bowes. 95, he's still, he's here with us.
Wow.
And he's had done every presidential inauguration since 1957.
So truly a legend.
Truly a legend.
Yeah.
But he taught me, he's like, are you married or have a girlfriend? I said, I have a girlfriend. He goes, you can make a decision once the workday's over. There are functions almost every night in Washington, D.C. There's nothing better than going, meeting someone, shaking their hand, looking me in the eye. It'll help you do business and grow your Rolodex. So he taught me that at a young age. But the person who most impacted me was Ted Leonsis. Ted was the president of AOL in '95 when I went there to help start their sports channel in an account management, business development role. And both, Ted Leonsis and Steve Case were really passionate about giving back to the community. And AOL became a major, we weren't that big when I started, but over time when we grew and when I met you, when we really hit the hockey stick and bought Time Warner, I remember being at Ted's house. I helped bring some athletes for his son's birthday party, like his 8th birthday party. And I said, Ted, what do you do? All these people hit you up all the time, for nonprofit causes. He says, pick a lane. Pick something that's important to you and say no to everything else.
Pick a lane.
Yeah, and my lane was, through the Hoop Dream Scholarship Foundation is helping low-income children, poor neighborhoods go to college. And that's been a lane I've stuck with for 25 years.
So we're here in D.C. today. Thanks for coming to do this in the studio. Believe it or not, this little show of ours has been downloaded in 90 countries.
Wow.
For those in 90 countries who don't know who Ted Leonsis is, you mentioned him as someone important to you. He owns sports teams.
Yeah, so real quick. So Ted was the son of Greek immigrants from Brooklyn, New York, came to Georgetown University in the mid-'70s. Frankly, was lost, hadn't been around a lot of affluent people, and met a 75-year-old Jesuit priest named Father Durkin. And Father Durkin mentored Ted. 3 years later, Ted graduated number one in his class of 77 from the college at Georgetown. And part of what I do with all these kids, I call it pay it forward, where Father Durkin taught Ted, Ted taught me, and I've taught hundreds of kids, Georgetown students and inner city kids, and they teach the next generation. So I keep telling them this is pay it forward in action. And I think Ted and Steve in management just taught us about AOL, about really serving the community, and then, how do you leverage the internet to help the community, right? And so, like, if you remember, AOL instant messaging was new, right? So in a lot of cases, you're a busy business executive, you don't have time to meet with the kids. Well, just do it through the buddy list and through email, the daily contact. Right, it was really
connecting.
important. Yeah.
And so then he rose to the levels of owning one and now multiple sports teams, right?
In '95, I met him. He was president. I set up a lot of major meetings with sports execs around the country, including NFL Commissioner Tagliabue, the France family in NASCAR, Michael Jordan's agents. And in '99, he announced he's buying 100% of the Capitals, 25% of the Wizards, the Mystics, and the Arena. So
the pro basketball team, the pro hockey team, and the women's basketball team.
Yep. And that was a $200 million.
In the arena, probably.
Yeah. And so that was a $200 million investment. So let's go fast forward 27 years. They're now worth $6 billion. So now he's the majority chair of Monumental Sports and Entertainment. So it's the three teams we mentioned, but it's also the G League team, the DC Go-Go. They have the esports team, Team Liquid. They have esports facilities, and they have this, great arena downtown. And then it's what he said his dream originally. It's owning everything. So he bought the Regional Sports Network, which was majority owned by NBC Sports. Ted bought that. So that's Monumental Sports Network now.
So I love, though, that you were mentored. It sounds like he was mentored by someone.
Father Durkin.
Maybe you don't know him, maybe you do, but he wasn't your mentor.
Yeah.
And now young people who probably never even meet Father, maybe not Ted, are now benefiting from this chain.
And that's the legacy that continues. That's what's powerful.
I love that. And I bet some of the young people you mentor become mentors in their day.
100%.
That's just beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about your business. You mentioned your day job, Kiswe. You mentioned it was a little bit ahead of its time, video, streaming, branding. I mean, YouTube's been around for a while, Netflix a while. What do you mean by before its time?
So through Ted, I met a gentleman named Jung Kim back in 2000. Jung is an immigrant from Korea, came here at 14 to the D.C. area not speaking English. Put himself through Johns Hopkins, was a naval submarine officer for 8 years, and then he got out. So check this out. So while working full-time for a tech company, he goes for his PhD in engineering at University of Maryland at night.
What a slacker.
He does it in 2 years. First time in history someone's got PhD in 2 years and married with a baby girl. And then starts a company in 94, sells it for $1.1 billion in 98. So it became one of the first big tech entrepreneur stars.
Unicorn before unicorns.
Right. And then he bought into Ted's Monumental Sports in 2000, 2001 timeframe. And then he became president of Bell Labs in 2005, and he was there for 13 years.
Well, Bell Labs was known to be the place where literally like the sharpest people in America would go to work.
Yeah, places where you and I couldn't be hired.
That's true.
So Jung and I had, I'd seen him at Caps games and the owner suites, nonprofit philanthropy events. But in September 13, he asked me for lunch. So I thought I was going to have lunch with a friend of mine in Bethesda. And then he introduces me to the third guy, who's this European guy, also a PhD, who ran the wireless for Alcatel-Lucent. And Jung said he and Wim were seeing what's happening with the cord cutting. Right, and the change.
So
in
time frame again?
September 2013.
2013. Yeah, I definitely had not even heard of the phrase cord cutting yet.
Right, so they were ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And then as you notice, people are starting to binge watch. So they're watching everything on their own time. So I said to Jung, well, that's why sports rights continue to be so expensive, is because that's the last piece of content that you have to watch live. So if you're trying to reach a mass market, right, sports is where it is. So Jung says if sports is the most difficult, most expensive, let's focus on that. And then he tells me, he's like, he felt like the third wave was mobile video. And the way he said it is, you go to the movie theater, you don't touch the screen. TV, you don't touch the screen. Laptop, you don't touch the screen. But on your phone, your thumb's on everything except one app. That one app is video. So our job was how do we make that video interactive and you can engage with it. So that's what I mean about ahead of our time. Because my strength, those two guys are the smart PhDs. I'm the one that knows a lot of people.
Do you ever think about why did they ask you to get involved with this?
Well,
you weren't like pushing your resume out. It was a lunch.
Well, it's a great question. And actually, I'm going to tie it all together. Oh, great question.
That's okay.
Thank goodness. The president of your fan club.
Right.
So, because they're really smart engineers, they're not people persons. And they knew that they needed someone who had a Rolodex and a business development side. So Jung says, come on, join me when let's start a company. And at the time, I said yes the next day. At the time, the reason I said it was I have one of the better Rolodexes in the world in global sports, but as a professor and consultant, I wasn't using it in the best way. So I felt I could use my Rolodex in a more effective way. And at the time, I had either paid for or agreed to put 3 of my mentees through college. And my dream is I love to put 20 kids through college. I mean, you have children, I don't have children, so my legacy is to impact other kids. And that's why we started the company.
So it wasn't a big decision, or at least it wasn't a hard decision if you decided the next day, because it's a major life and lifestyle change.
I was just ready for something.
To jump into a business. Right. And you became a co-founder in the company. And I think I saw, or at least read the transcript, you gave a TED Talk around that time.
Yes.
And you were kind of predicting or observing trends in mobile and sports.
Oh, yeah.
And that was more than 10 years ago.
Yeah. You're on it. Yeah, it's true. The TED Talk was 2010. Oh, the other great thing. So Jung is, close friends with Ted Leonsis. They're partners. So Jung he and Wim meet with Ted about what they're saying. And Ted said, you know what? You need a sports guy. I got the perfect guy for you. You should bring Jimmy Lynn on board. And
so was it Ted's idea to have the lunch with you?
No, we had already agreed to start the company. So this is 3 weeks after. So then Jung calls me, says, this is funny. Ted recommended you. He didn't know you were.
It's a nice validation.
Nice validation, yeah.
Man. So this TED Talk, it seemed really prophetic, some of the things you said.
So basically I was saying, if you look at the adoption of any new technology over time, sports is at the forefront of that, right? Go back to the radios in the 1920s, right? It was horse racing, boxing, and basketball. You go to black and white TV, it was baseball. And then 1958 was a famous NFL game, the Giants and the Colts. Color TV comes out in the 60s, cable in the late 70s, ESPN launches. That's all sports.
Monday Night Football was a massive thing the first time the Browns played that night.
Right, and then you fast forward to internet, satellite radio, now mobile. Sports is always at the forefront of the adoption of new tech. And then the next part that I'm dabbling in right now is sports AI.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. You were prophetic with this TED Talk about sports and mobile trends. If we're doing that today, what are your observations? What are your predictions? What are you thinking about a lot? You just mentioned AI, but
No.
what do you mean by that?
But that's a couple years away. But since you have a global audience, which is amazing,
Thank you.
You just got to look at the globalization of sport, right? So the two biggest sports are soccer or football, as it's called outside the U.S., right? Of the 7.7 billion, there are about 4 billion football fans, and the NBA has about 2 billion fans. And so you're seeing the globalization of sports, and a lot of that has to do with the streaming capabilities and how you're able to view that. And, you know, the NBA deal is fascinating, right? So they're right now getting paid $2.4 billion by Turner and ESPN. That's projected to go to $7.5 billion when that deal gets announced. But part of it is they're also bringing in streaming partners and global partners. NFL and NBA. The NFL announced the two Christmas Day games.
Yeah.
Right?
So streaming and international are the big trends. Anything else that maybe we haven't thought?
Data.
Go.
Data. So if you and I are watching, you know, your Cleveland Cavaliers on TV can't really tell you who's watching their network. You're reading the New York Times. They don't really tell you, you know, who's reading your paper. You're listening to radio, you're seeing a billboard. But with the streaming platforms and the apps, you have to register and sign up. So all of a sudden you have all that data, right? And when you have that data on the marketing side, that's gold. So when they say data is the new gold, that's specifically what they mean.
I'm grateful that Calfee, Halter, and Griswold has once again agreed to partner with us. With offices in Ohio and Washington, D.C., this full-service national law firm focuses on all aspects of business and the law, including corporate and finance, intellectual property, and government relations. Let me be clear. I actually approach companies with whom I would like to partner. We just don't accept marketing dollars from anyone. I have been referring my CEO and entrepreneur friends to Calfee for years. I really believe in the firm. One of their notable practice areas is in mergers and acquisitions. And recently, for instance, I introduced a successful entrepreneur in the Midwest to Calfee when he told me that a European-based conglomerate wanted to buy his business. Calfee works with large corporations as well as privately held companies throughout the U.S. and Canada and in Europe and Asia too. So whether it's selling your own business or the more routine needs of creating your first will, or anything in between, this firm can really do it all in terms of legal needs. Once again, the firm is Calfee, Halter, and Griswold, and you can find them at calfee.com or on the Up2 Foundation website. Another aspect that I was wondering if you might bring up that I've noticed is private capital getting involved in business.
Yeah.
Not just 30 billionaires owning NFL teams, but second and third division Premier League, or not Premier League, but English soccer teams getting bought by an American Indian reservation.
Right.
This happened recently. Believe it or not, my friend is the hired owner, the hired general partner of an American Indian reservations entity that bought a soccer team, and they just got promoted to the Premier League.
Right.
But that's like American money going into...
So it's interesting, Adam, if we do that, because I remember I've taken Georgetown students to London and Rio de Janeiro for 1 week meetings. We used to go meet with Tom Fox, was the chief commercial officer for Arsenal. What a great brand, right? And then he'd spend an hour and a half with the kids, blow them away. We'd get the tour, but you know, I had a few American friends who were in executive positions, and part of what they're doing is trying to increase their revenue and monetization, where the U.S. market is the best at that. And there's a lot of pushback, right? They don't want all the commercials and the cheerleaders and the sponsorship.
The club fans don't love American owners.
Right, but that's how the valuation goes up.
Right, that's the irony. Now, there's plenty of top teams that are owned by Americans.
Right.
There's such a long list.
So I'll tell you a cool thing. So what I love is the rise of women and girls sports. So our majority owner of the Washington Spirit is a woman named Michelle Kang, also an immigrant from Korea. self-made, great businesswoman. So she takes over the Washington Spirit 3 years ago. Was not a sports person, but a really smart business mind. And what I love, what she's done is, City Football Group,
Yeah.
right?
What was her background? She said.
So I went to University of Chicago, Master's Yale, consulting, and
Here
then
in D.C.?
New York and D.C. And then she had a health technology company, Consancti, in Falls Church, which she just sold to Accenture Federal this spring.
Because we've had both Jody McLean.
She's part of our group.
And Carol Melton.
They're all part of our group.
That's why I'm telling you their names.
Yeah.
They've both been on the podcast here.
No, they're just
for different reasons.
So but see, that's what I love about it. So
sharp business people.
Brilliant.
Getting into sports.
If I may say it, just badasses.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
Brilliant people, right?
I know, right.
And I think we have like 25 owners, and it's majority women, majority C-level, and it's about seeing like what we all grew up like, this is a whole different world. So what Michelle is doing brilliantly is you have City Football, which owns Man City and like 14 clubs around the world, right? Put together sponsorship and operations. So Michelle's creating the female version of City Football. So she bought the most famous club in Europe, Olympique, in Lyon, France.
In France.
And she bought a second-tier team in England. So her goal is to buy 10 women's clubs, led by women, run by women.
Unbelievable. I'd love to talk soccer with you the rest of the program, but I want to really get into mentoring because that's, I think, your superpower, to use an overused word, but it truly is.
Thank you.
But prior to the mentoring, talk a little bit about teaching. What does teaching do for you in business? What does it do for you, if anything, in mentoring or in your life? Because you have it's a rare privilege to be shaping the minds of students at any school.
Right.
My brother's a public school teacher in Denver. And in a similar way, his passion for being around the young people reminds me a little bit of how you talk about it. Yeah.
I think the difference was I had an AOL colleague, John Tierney, who created this internet marketing class in 97, 98, and asked me to go with him to pitch it to AU to see my old professors. And unbeknownst to me, they said, you should teach with us. So we had to create this first internet marketing class in the DMV area. And we actually...
What year is that? What time?
97, 98.
So the first internet marketing class. Yeah, and that's early.
It was new, right?
Yeah.
And then what was cool is you had these Harvard case studies, but most of those case studies were done on AOL Content Partners. So we would time it so someone from Barnes & Noble, 1-800-Flower, CBS Sportsline was in DC to meet at Dulles, I'd get them to come speak to our class. And it sort of created this like practitioner model, right? So, a lot of classes, you have your tenured faculty, PhDs that are brilliant, research-based, theory-based. We sort of flipped the model and create like a practitioner model where you're teaching the aspects of sports marketing, but then you're bringing executives to talk about it in real life.
Okay.
So that's how when I started teaching at Georgetown, I did the same thing. 2.5-hour class. We would teach the principles, the theory, the important part, but the second half I'd bring in speakers. So I brought in Ted Leonsis would come every year, Phil Tapiciato, president of Octagon. I'd bring in Hall of Famers, Olympians, and it just added to the buzz. And so when we created the sports management program 2008 that was created by Matt Winkler, we did the same thing. We went 100% adjunct faculty, 2 teachers per class, and sports practitioners. So you're not just learning like
It's not just a lecture.
No, it's
You're
the real
practitioners.
real world.
Right.
Like these kids, like I pushed our marketing faculty at Georgetown a few years ago to create a class on social and digital media marketing because that was what the companies want to hire. And I said, all right, you and Marty go create a class. So my co-professor, Marty Conway, and I created this class. And what's cool is all the stuff I talk about Kiswe, like we just did this deal with BTS, the largest digital concerts in the world, 1.1 million sold to 197 countries. I talk about it in real life.
Well, I think as a former student, to me that gets a lot more attention, earned reputation, because you're actually in the marketplace doing it. I'm seeing a trend here, though, that I didn't think about ahead of time. You go to a lunch with a gentleman you kind of knew. He ends up hiring you, or you become a co-founder of his company. You go to AU with your friend because you went there. You end up becoming a professor at AU. Do you ever think, like, how do I get into these situations? You were just going to lunch. You were just going to one class. Do you have any sort of worry about I'm not qualified for what these people
So
are
guess what? It's almost like what I said about Charlie Brotman. Go take these meetings, right? And so like I was like,
Just jump into the meeting. It's easier to say no.
I don't want to go to this meeting. All of a sudden you go to this meeting and then stuff starts coming together. But you're right. I mean, do you feel like I'm in over my head? Absolutely. But I think that's what AOL, and you have many friends that were at AOL when we started. That's what AOL taught me so well. Right? Think on your feet. The business model's changing. Technology's changing. So
did they literally, excuse me, did they literally have to teach you that? Or that was just the environment, so you had to learn how to do it yourself? Right.
Because I started, and there was another person in the office, and they removed him, let him go, and said, well, you're going to have double the work for about a month till we bring someone else in. They just never brought the other person in. And that happened repeatedly to me at AOL. It just sharpens you, right?
It forces.
You learn to prioritize.
Do you ever, back then or even still, do you ever, though, have some doubt? Or have you always had a good level of self-confidence?
No.
I invited you on this program because you are so humble. The theme is leaders who are as humble as they are successful.
And I oftentimes feel like an imposter. You're like, how did I get here? Am I doing this right?
Right.
And I think that might be my Asian side, the humble side. Like Jung is this, brilliant tech executive, and he tells me, we're really close friends, and he says, one of the things I admire most about you, you've always stayed humble. You've accomplished so much, but you wouldn't know it. Like you stay humble, and that I really appreciate that.
So how do you deal with, though, that self-doubt when you're in the meeting, or you have to give the presentation, or you have to go talk to Kevin Garnett at the All-Star game?
I don't have self-doubt in meetings. But I think just time, and I think COVID changed, right?
Maybe that's a gift of yours, though.
Yeah. So, but I think that's what's always been part of what drives me. Like I use an analogy. I'm never the star player. I always feel like I'm a utility player on a championship team, whether it's at AOL or at Kiswe or at Georgetown, where
I like that, utility player. Like today, before this recording, I reintroduced you to somebody, and then you two started talking, and I said my work is done here, and I walked away. I like to be the middleman.
That's what I do. I'm a connector.
Right.
We are connectors.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Let me put this together.
Yeah.
So, but it just really feels good to impact people's lives in a really positive way. And why do I focus on first generation college students and minority students? One is Ted, with his back coming as a Greek immigrant and what he had to go through. My kids now at Georgetown are very similar to that. How do you eat properly at a restaurant, eye contact, follow-up? They're lacking in that.
All right, so let's delve into that slowly. I know I suggested let's slow down, but mentoring. You just mentioned your kids at Georgetown. I think you're talking about kids you mentored, not your students.
Correct. Big difference.
Can you broadly just summarize and take a few minutes? Like, what is your mentoring program? How is it part of an organization? Is it your own ad hoc finding young people?
That's a beautiful thing, because I don't have a mentoring system. There's no sign up. It's organic how it happens. And basically, I meet these kids. They got to follow up. If they follow up, I just know that's going to be a mentee, right? And then
so the original platform for meeting them is at school. Okay.
One of the beautiful things about Georgetown is 10% of the student body comes from low-income backgrounds, first generation, and Georgetown pays for everything. They're called a community scholar or Georgetown scholarship program. Those are the kids I focus on. And what ends up happening is junior or senior will say, hey, I have this freshman that came in just like me 2 years ago. Can you help? Can you help them? Or the coaches will tell me, or the deans will tell me, hey, I've got this kid, he can really use mentoring. And, quarter of my kids are single parent, right? So I end up becoming like a uncle figure or father figure.
Right.
And they end up becoming like a child. I mean, I can't tell you how many kids I've...
I was going to ask you, do you have any sense of how many young people you've actually mentored?
Well, I say a couple dozen, but it's more than that.
It's more than that.
Yearly.
Yeah, because I've known you now since 1998, and you always...
Yeah,
that's more than 25 years ago, and you do more than one a year.
Yeah, No. It's a couple hundred. I mean,
Let alone the hours. Can you imagine the hours you have volunteered?
I don't want to think about it.
Like a lot of organizations, they not that you should, but they tabulate and even boast of the hours donated. I can't even imagine the number of hours you've donated.
Well, I mean, you know that I used to be quite active socially in D.C., and I mean, to be very, very personal and open up on your podcast, about 13, 14 years ago, I felt like I have everything material-wise. The only hole I had was I didn't get married. I didn't have my own kids. So while I was on the boards of 8 to 9 nonprofits, I got off almost every board. So I just want to get involved directly in the kids' life and really mentor them. So I met a 9-year-old girl, Sally Yu, Chinese American, through the Asian American League where I was a board member, and a 13-year-old brother. They're immigrants from China, grew up in public housing in down Chinatown here in D.C. Kids slept in the same bed. I mean, they had nothing. And I just that was the year my father passed. I met Sally when she's 9. And it's not like she filled a void, but it sort of was, right?
Well, you did have some heart space available at that point.
Correct. And
a lot of love to give, so to speak.
And so, the following year, I'm meeting with her mother at dinner, and she doesn't speak English, I don't speak Chinese, but interpreting, and she goes, my husband and I moved to the U.S. for our kids' education, but we're poor, my kids can't go to college. And then me thinking of what a Ted Leonsis, a Mario Marino, what they taught you about
Mario
giving.
Marino, he lives in Cleveland.
I know, the king of VPP. So, but what they taught me about giving back to others. So I told the mom back in 2010, I'm going to pay for your 2 kids to go to college. That was 2010.
Was this your first, not official because you don't have a system, but was this your first true mentoring scenario?
In terms of the long-term commitment. And then,
so about those 2, do you stay in touch with them? Let's stay connected with this family.
So one, let me brag. Dazzy went to University of Maryland, but here's the cool thing: his senior year, while writing his admissions and learning what college life is like, I actually had 3 Chinese American kids students of mine, mentees at Georgetown, who helped me mentor Dazzy. Right, and they took him to University of Maryland, showed him around campus, taught him college life. We all helped with his college essay. So he graduated Maryland in 2018, first college graduate in his life.
Wow.
Got him a job through a good friend of mine at Capital One. Then he went to Geico, and now he works for TikTok in L.A.
So it sounds like you definitely stay in touch with him. You know where he is now at TikTok.
Well, he's literally like, I'm a second father to him. But then Sally graduated. This is actually really cool.
That's his sister?
Yeah, his younger sister, who's like my daughter. And so she graduates Banneker High School in 2017, Maryland 21. Now she lives in Dallas, works in real estate. But here's the cool thing. Ted Leonsis sends out a tweet last week that he gave the commencement speech at Banneker High School in D.C. I said, well, here's the cool story. When Sally was graduating, she didn't tell me she won the award for most hours dedicated to community service. So I said,
where does that come from?
Father Durkin to Ted, Ted to Jimmy, Jimmy to Sally.
I just got chills.
No, it's
and I had nothing to do with this. I can't imagine how you feel.
And then I can almost make you cry right now. You want me to do that?
Well,
I can do it later.
Say whatever you want.
No, there's a text that Sally sent me on Father's Day.
What is it?
I can't read. I'll cry. So you gotta keep asking me questions.
While you look for it, I was going to ask you if you've ever done like an org chart. You know how you see like these ecosystems of companies and startups and other startups that come from that. Imagine the org chart of your. Just read it to me. Imagine the org chart.
Can't read. I'll cry.
Hi, Jimmy. On this special day dedicated to you. This is Father's Day a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Father's Day last year?
Yeah, last week. Two Sundays ago.
Right. Okay. Hi, Jimmy. On this special day dedicated to you. Let me back up. So she works for TikTok now?
No. Her brother works for TikTok. So Sally works for a real estate company in Dallas.
Okay.
And she'll be 24 next week.
Kind of your first mentoring family. Hi, Jimmy. On this special day dedicated to you, I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude and admiration. You've been more than a father to me. You've been my guide and my rock and my inspiration. Your wisdom and unconditional love have shaped who I am today. Wow. I mean, how does that make you feel when you get that?
Tearjerker.
I cherish the countless memories we've created together, from our adventures to our heartfelt conversations. She's also a good writer.
Yeah.
Your support through every triumph and challenge has meant the world to me, and I feel incredibly lucky to have you as my dad. Wow. It goes on here. I think it says, good luck on the Up To podcast. It's my favorite show. No, that's really amazing, dude.
Right? No, so I you get those, and those are the kinds of things that inspire you to keep driving you. And so I was saying, so I stopped going out, socially like I was. I go to bed early now. I get up early, but I 2 to 3 nights a week are with mentees.
Was it
dinners, sports events?
Was it your father passing away that was the catalyst for this change?
No.
Or what was it seeing your friends get married, or what led to this?
Late 40s, and I was just burned out from the whole club scene.
Yeah.
And I be careful.
How many times can you go to the Child Herald and
Exactly.
whoop it up?
Well, if you got a good DJ, it's all right. That's DJ Judge and Butter Kid. That should be a documentary. Just burned out, and I got to be careful saying this, but a lot of friends, half of them not in good marriages, and to me, you got to be married. You'd be a great husband. Live your own life. And my own life was, I want to impact kids' lives in a positive way. So I've been doing it for 15, the rest of my life.
You also take the time in this world of social media where so much is about, look at my new car,
right,
or look at this vacation we're on. I love the time you spend putting these activities into the posts.
I do it on purpose because people have told me that has impacted them to give back and make a difference, even in a small way.
Right. That narration really inspires even me to be self-reflective about when's the last time I had some kind of an impact like that. So, keep doing that. I think, Facebook, Meta, Instagram gets kind of a bad rap. I think there's a lot of good aspects of those platforms, and one of which is to allow people like you to inspire not just people but strangers.
Right.
So I want to stick with mentoring a little bit more, Jimmy. What does the mentoring cadence look like? Because, like, you just read a text that the young lady sent to you, but is it in-person meetings? Is it scheduled phone calls? Is it group chats on Zoom? What does it look like?
With the Georgetown kids, I usually take them out in groups of 3 or 4.
Oh, so it's a group in-person dinners,
lunches, dinners, sports events. The text messages. Great example. I got texting is how they communicate.
Yeah, that's the generation, right?
So I won't say, but one of my kids, first gen college, he wanted to leave Georgetown when he's a freshman because didn't like college, didn't like Georgetown. He lost his dad when he was 15, so he had his mom and 2 younger brothers. Didn't understand the value of a college education and a Georgetown degree. Well, that young man has worked 6 years for a very successful technology company, one of the biggest.
You convinced him to stay at school?
Stayed school, graduated Georgetown. I flew his mother and brothers to a couple football games because they'd never been, and just to see the joy in their faces. So he asked me last night, you got a minute? And basically, he's got a couple career path opportunities, and we talked through that. And he is so mature and so grown up. And to see how far he has come, it's just like you said, Sally writes well. She did not write well in high school, right? And just, you see the growth.
It's not a given. Communicating, especially the younger generation, it's not a given that they can write well.
Right.
Yeah.
So get back to your question. It's a variety of different ways.
So this young man that you are talking about now, who's got this why in the road moment, go this way or that way with a career. How do you decide those why in the road moments, where you could go left or right?
I try to teach him what I learned. Like, sleep on it. What does your gut tell you? Like my decision to go to AOL. I'm at Home Team Sports, which is the Orioles, the Bullets, the Caps. Got great seats. And I got a chance to go to this small new technology, well, not new, but technology company that's starting a new division, a sports division called America Online right down the street in Vienna, Virginia, right? By far the best decision I made, but the safer decision was, what's the internet?
Right.
Stay in TV.
So you slept on it in that scenario. I often tell people the biggest decisions we make, we do them better if we make them relaxed. So I always encourage people to sleep on it, pray about it.
Yeah.
And it's not always lightning bolts where God tells us do this or do that. But the way I explain it is, and tell me if you find this to be true, if you're comfortable in your belly with like whatever you think your decision is, to me, that's God telling me it's the right decision.
I agree.
Because we still have free will.
Yeah, I agree.
And we can good people make bad decisions.
Yeah, that's why I told the young man there were a couple major times I had major decisions. And I woke up the next morning. I wasn't tossing and turning. I had a good night of sleep. That told me this is the right decision.
I wanted to ask you about documentaries because you also mentioned that. Like, there's a certain aspect of media production that I think is gaining interest right now. Maybe it's because of Netflix and Amazon Prime, et cetera. But I seem to watch more documentaries, or at least know about them more. Are there more of them now?
Yeah.
And are you doing any right now, or thinking about one?
So it goes back to Ted Leonsis. He had written a book by Iris Chang called The Rape of Nanking, about what the Japanese soldiers did in China. It's brutal. And he did a documentary, and it was at Sundance. And one of my good friends, Chris Halvarese, and I, Chris's father ran the Greek church in D.C., St. Sophia, and obviously Ted's Greek. There's a whole Greek community. Chris and I went out to Sundance for that, saw that, and then Chris says to me in 2010, hey, I need a hobby, man. Let's do something different. I've been coaching Greek basketball. Let's start a documentary company, focus on sports. You know everyone's sports. I'll help finance it. And we launched a company. And our first documentary was from someone from Youngstown, Ohio. It was actually on Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Oh, wow.
And so this great writer, Mark Kriegel, was writing a book about him, and we did the companion piece. And we sold that to NBC. We learned a lot on how hard the business model is in documentaries, but we've since then produced 8 others and sold 4 or 5 to Netflix.
The Boom Boom Mancini story.
It's amazing.
Didn't he
tragically killed an
opponent? And was he Japanese?
Korean.
I can remember that like it was yesterday. So are there any people out there now, either alive or in the past, that you'd love to do a documentary for?
Yes, there are. But it's tough with the licensing and.
Right. Well, who's somebody that you'd love to really delve into?
I don't want to say the name because it's a little controversial.
Okay, so it's possible you could do it, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that documentaries, especially 'cause I fly a ton, I'm in hotels a ton. It's a great way to take in content that's not just some like mindless. TV show, comedy or romance or something. It's a good way to learn.
I just watched a Turning Point on Netflix, 9 episodes with everything going on, right?
Right.
In the Middle East and in Ukraine and how this all started and how divisive this country's become. Like, there's a lot of history, and like, it's 9 episodes, which is a lot. I was glued to it.
And even movies now, I tell our kids, especially the boys, I think the best movies are true stories.
Exactly. I'm with you.
And I just recently watched Black Hawk Down for like the 100th time.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. We're almost done here, but I wanted to ask you, because you said you watched something recently, how do you consume information? Is it mostly on your phone? I ask everyone that, but you, in your line of work, this will be really interesting.
I'll tell you. So, because I'm 14 years at AOL, I took 1 sick day in 14 years.
Whoa.
Everything was the same. Get up, shower, shave, change, 25 minutes, stop at Starbucks, schlep 26 miles out to Loudoun County.
Are you going to tell me you still get printed newspapers delivered to your house? Because so do I.
So when I left in 2009, I said, I want to read the paper every day, 2 cups of coffee. Knowledge is power. That was 15 years ago. I still do it. I read the paper cover to cover. The
Washington Post,
2 cups of coffee, and then while I'm always checking Slack for work, email. But then I read the New York Times, I read the Wall Street Journal, and then I read the Sports Business Daily, the sports publications, and that's all on my laptop or my phone.
Literally, Sports Business Daily? Is that I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh yeah, so
it's called Sports Business Daily.
Yeah, so these Jeffrey Pollack, Dave Aberton, these guys started in Falls Church in '95, and it was something that was on Capitol Hill where you took the highlights of political news and you put it in a quick daily. This is what happened yesterday. They did the sports version.
Was that called the Hotline? I used to watch the Hotline, the political,
So they created the sports version for that, and it's a terrific way.
Paid for? Like, could I subscribe to it?
Paid for it, but you get 8 o'clock, you get a morning thing, what happened yesterday, and then 1 o'clock at noon, like, what's big. And for me, it's important because what Kiswe is doing, we're really involved in sports media rights. And so, I'm the one subscriber in the company. So whenever there's pertinent things, I'm always sending out to our different
cut and
team
pasting, so to speak.
Yes.
Substack is something that I love. Do you
Yes.
ever follow
Yeah.
anyone on Substack? I think that's another interesting trend. It's not just sports, but in terms of media, where you can have direct relationships with journalists that you follow. I think I subscribe to probably 6 or 7 different journalists, not just my own political persuasion, but different walks of life.
So a friend of mine was the sports media reporter for the Sports Business Journal for 17 years, John Oran, and he left and he started at the Puck. So he does the sports for the Puck. And I'm reading about Washington, Hollywood, and sports. I read that regularly. Yeah, so I'm very much into that. Yes.
What are you most excited about going forward? Like, what's next on the impressive Jimmy Lynn agenda?
I just keep living live. I thought the startup would be 3 years, one and done, get out. We're in year 11, man. It's been a grind, but we're really clicking now. We're working with NBA globally, work with ESPN, Paris Olympics. This is our 3rd straight Olympics. I mean, think of a tech startup working with Olympic broadcasting, right? We're doing all the in-demand, all the pay-per-view fights, ppv.com. In music, I mentioned BTS. I mean,
you got a lot going on.
Yeah, we did 17 K-pop concerts in 1 month, and now we're working in the creative vertical, which is a whole new space. And I'm too old for that, but fortunately, we have younger employees.
Is there something in the past you said, just show up, take the meeting? Is there something that you wished you said yes to that you did pass on? Because you are doing so many things. But is there anything, my day job is venture capital, and we call this the anti-portfolio, things we pass on that did really well.
Right.
Is there something that you wish you jumped into, or do you basically jump into almost everything, or at least have good discernment to know what to jump into?
Students and mentees ask me that. Have you made a mistake or things you regret? And I think about it, and I tell them it's okay to make mistakes. It's not okay to make the same mistake a second time and a third time, right? It's okay to fail. There might a couple things, but I feel pretty fortunate that I'm a grinder, right? I'm a grinder utility guy, and that it has paid off in a good way. Like, one of the things that I think a big compliment is if I go to high school or college reunion, they're like, "Man, Jimmy Lynn, you haven't changed," and like.
You like that?
I like that because it's like I'm the same dude. Like last summer I went to Tokyo with my best friend Kevin Guthrie and his wife Sari, and their 3 kids who are like my kids. So I met Kevin in 7th grade in 1975 on an army base in Japan. We both moved back here. So Kevin's father was like my second dad. He's a 4-star general who always told us the importance of diversity and inclusion. You treat everyone well regardless of race, rank, or ethnicity. I learned that at 12 or 13 years old from General and Mrs. Guthrie. And it's cool because Kevin and Sari graduated Princeton. Both their dads were Princeton, and 2 of their 3 older kids graduated Princeton. And they're like my niece and nephew. So we've been talking about going to Japan for 15 years, and we went last year for 8 days to Tokyo and Kyoto, and it was a memorable trip. But I was trying to tell the kids, like, your dad and I are brothers. We haven't lived in the same city since 1980 because he went to Annandale High School, went to Princeton, lived in New York. He created JSTOR.org, which is this great way for the students to do their research. And I said, despite us not being in the same city, since 1980, we're still like this.
It's funny you're saying that because actually I had a question related to that.
It's like you and butter.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to read this because it's exactly what you were talking about, the importance of relationships. Nearly everyone talks about it. Law firms and wealth management firms all speak to their client relationships, and they all on their website say it's all about you.
Yeah.
They all say that. CEOs talk about the importance of the relationships. I was watching on CNBC this morning. Sales consultants, sales gurus talk about relationships, but very few actually practice relationship building, especially in this digital age that we're in. You and I met 25 years ago.
Right.
We don't talk every month.
Right.
There's probably been a couple of years where we didn't interact.
Right.
Yet, I feel like we're talking right now like we have weekly lunch together.
Yeah, right. It's true.
What do you do? And it's not just me. You have 1 million people in your life like me.
Yep.
How do you continue to nurture these relationships? You're going to think it's no big deal or say something like that because you're humble, but most people don't have that talent.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the little DNA I have. Like, my partners are really smart technically wise, right? With a high IQ. The EQ isn't that good. I think my IQ is so-so, but my EQ is off the charts, right? And it's part of it. And I mentioned that before we got here about that event I went last week with NCAA athletes.
Right.
I mean, I have 5 to 6 new mentees.
Right.
And instead
And you're going to find a way to stay in touch with all of them in their various walks of life.
But that's where you give credit to social and digital media, right? Because
makes it a little bit easier.
I told them add me on LinkedIn, right? So we're connected on LinkedIn. I'm setting up calls with them. But on the social media side, one of the great things I had a lunch 2 weeks ago with a very powerful media exec. I haven't seen him in 5 years. He goes, yeah, but I feel like I know what you've been up to because we're friends on Facebook and
That's
Instagram.
what I'm describing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like I see you all the time post these great photos with amazing people all over the place. So I'm able to keep in touch with Adam Kaufman.
Well, you have been a real gift today. It's amazing how quick the hour goes.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've ever said this in a podcast before. This is our 6th season, but I'd love to have you back. I feel like there's so many more topics we can discuss.
I'd love to come back. I'd love to recommend other people to you guys.
But in the meantime, just congratulations on all you've achieved. You said that the students said to you, you haven't changed.
Right.
That's a credit to your humility. There's so many people who rise up.
Yeah.
Actually, most are the other way. They change who they are. They act differently.
Right.
I'm just so appreciative of your authenticity.
Oh, thank you.
Is that intentional, or do you think that's just who you are?
But you know what I love is I'll be giving speeches and I'll cry. And then I'm like, oh, what a jerk for crying. And people say, no, you're authentic. It's the real you.
Ironically, that draws people closer to us.
Right.
We think the opposite. We think if we're perfect and our custom suit is awesome and the driver and the nice sedan, but if we're ourselves, we're more relatable.
Right. Correct.
So
and people see that.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
But you're one of the most relatable people I know, so thank you for being here today. And just God bless you in your continued important work.
Well, thank you. Do all the great work you're doing, and best of luck with the podcast.
Thanks.
Let's get it to 125 countries.
That'd be good.
Thank you for listening to the Up To podcast. We aim to showcase super achievers who remain humble in the hope that their stories will inspire others to remain humble throughout life's journey. For feedback, guest suggestions, or any other inquiries, you can email Adam Kaufman directly at adam@up2foundation.org. That's adam@up2foundation.org. A special thanks to our longtime sponsors, VividFront and Calfee. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Up To wherever you get your favorite podcast. BLC Digital Strategies proudly produces the Up To podcast. Located right outside the nation's capital in McLean, Virginia, visit blcdigitalstrat.com for all of your podcasting needs. We'll see you next time.